Hello and welcome back. We have Quo here playing Splatoon 2. Welcome.
What's up, guys?
So,
Alright, should we get right into it?
oh, certainly.
Or should we say a little blurb first?
It's all up to you, buddy.
Alright, sounds good. So we'll get into it because there's a bit of a cutscene here. So I'll be doing the... My mic sounds better, thank you. I'll be doing the Octo Expansion, which is the DLC for this game. So we will be... Yeah, we'll be running through that. This game actually has a bunch of lore that we'll get into it. First, I need to choose if I want a boy or girl, so someone in chat, whoever types boy or girl first, gets to pick. Girl? Ooh, CJ was faster. Yeah, it's 3-1. Alright, we'll go girl. So anyways, the story of this game, if you've played the first game, you're Agent 3, and then sort of sometime after you fight Dr. Octavia, which is the final boss of the first game, you get into a fight with an Octoling, and then, which is the Octoling that we're going to be playing as, and then for some reason, like, you, which is Agent 3, the Octoling, which is the person we're playing now, and Captain Cuttlefish, which is this guy, all black out because someone attacks them, and they end up in the Deep Sea Metro. So Captain Cuttlefish finds us, and we have amnesia, and this actually does not play a role in the plot for some reason, as opposed to every other game with amnesia. So we did say girl, right? So for aesthetic reasons, the aesthetics don't actually matter. Are we ready on timer, by the way?
Yes. We're all ready.
Excellent. Alright, so time starts when I say go. So in 3, 2, 1, go. Sorry, I didn't say go when I was supposed to. But anyways, we have amnesia, we don't remember who we are, and Captain Cuttlefish sort of finds us, and the story of why we're, like, quote, good is because Dr. Octavio has, like, mind control goggles that he gives to all the Octolings, and ours broke off, and then we got amnesia from that. And yeah, now we're trying to redeem ourselves and be good, and we also want to make it to Inkopolis, which is like the hub city where all the Splatfest and fun things happen. I feel like I forgot to say something. There's more to be said, but it'll come to me as it comes. So if you've never seen Splatoon, there's a lot of... I mean, the main mechanics is you have a gun that shoots ink, and with that ink you can swim around with it because you're half squid, or in this case half octopus. And soon we'll be seeing a gun. So the point of Octo Expansion, we'll actually get to that a bit sooner, but we'll get to a train station, and then we just need to go through a few levels, get some things. They're actually called things, and then beat the game. So we'll explain more when we get there. We'll skip here, the bomb. It's fast. So yeah, this does have a bunch of mechanics that are different from the main story campaign, if you guys have played that, but not this one for some reason. And overall, I do find this one significantly more enjoyable. I'm playing in English. Technically, the fastest version is Spanish, but it only saves like 4 seconds, and this game has like really good writing. So if you guys want to read during the unskippable cutscenes, the option is there. So Captain Cuttlefish pretty much just chills around. We're going to meet our main guide for this game, which is the telephone that we can see way back there. Well, sorry, CJ. Read it to you? No. So this part I can actually mash. But basically, the phone says that for you to get to the Promised Land, which is Inkopolis, you need to go through testing. So you are application 10,008. There's a lot of number 8 in this game, as you'll soon see. Things that are not as noticeable, there are 80 stages, for example. Or is it 88? Something like that. You're Agent 8, things like that. But anyways, he gives us a card to activate the Metro. And a sort of like, it's basically an iPhone, but it's also our map, how we're going to select stages. But we'll get to that soon. So this is the metro. This is how we'll get around to the different stations, which is where the testings will be taking place. Someone pointed out yesterday, and it's the first time that I actually noticed it, but the metro leaves the same way it comes in. So hopefully that's not too big an issue for you. Apparently it was for them. Yeah, we got a few more cutscenes before we can actually get started. So we get introduced to the conductor. His name is Sea Cucumber. It's a pun because it sounds like sea cucumber. He doesn't do much either. He drives us to train stations. Also, he gives us items that we can use in multiplayer. Well, obviously, we're not gonna go pick that up because, well, first of all, I don't have Nintendo Switch Online on this account, but also it's slow to go talk to him every time. While we do the first stations, Keto, are there any bid wars or things like that that people can donate for to come up, or that are coming up rather?
Yes, there is. Upcoming, we have a donation incentive for Mario Kart 8. I think we have two.
Sorry, I had to mash. Yeah, there's a bid war and an incentive. So if you like some Mario Kart,
Okay, close. We need to pause for a little bit.
do we?
Yeah.
We're pausing. Sharp CMP. Okay.
call a spade. I'm a success. I read about it in a magazine. I'm popular. I'm captain of the yacht club.
Hello, and we're back. I apologize for the technical issues, but we are back.
For those who know me, honestly, you should have expected the technical issues. So you know what? You got what you came for. So I did pause my timer, I'm not sure. I hope the stream timer also paused, but just in case, I'll count down anyways.
I have a feeling it is.
Excellent. Alright, so we'll go 3, 2, 1, go. It's okay. If you're just tuning in though,
Alrighty.
You missed absolutely nothing. So this is the first station. It's fake plastic. There are fake plastic trees here because we're in an underground subway. And there are no trees in the underground subway. But this is pretty much the tutorial level where you learn how to shoot your gun, so we're going to need to kill 4 enemies. The enemies here are actually also octolings, but they're sanitized, which basically means they have the mind control goggles on. Oops. They also have a couple of different weapons, so we're just using the basic gun right now, but we're going to see a bunch of different weapons. Alright, so hopefully this pans out. Shooting this guy before he kills you can sometimes be difficult because he has a special weapon. Alright, armor's broken. And die though. Thankfully, this mode has a mechanic where you have armor. So instead of dying, your armor would break, and then you're pretty much vulnerable that the next hit you would die. But armor breaking is not that big a deal. You do slow down considerably. You can barely not move, so you're in like full survival mode there. Hopefully it doesn't happen too much. Alright, so a little cutscene here. We get introduced to Pearl and Marina. They're basically our tech support for this this adventure underground. Marina's like a super smart tech person, and Pearl is there. There are 25 stations that we're going to be going through. We just did one. And we need to collect the 4 things, as I mentioned before. So the order that I'm going to do it, I'm just going to go through the order on my splits, which is to do the one on the left first, and then do the right side, and then do the left side, which technically is non-optimal, but it's just easier for me to remember which order to do them in this way. So this is the baller. You roll around in the baller. You can also detonate it, but if you detonate it, you need to wait for it to explode first of all, and then second of all, wait for it to regenerate, which on this stage it does automatically because, oops, it revolves around the baller. There's a few tricky jumps here, but none of them are too bad if I can squeeze through there. If any of those big roller things hit me, they launch you pretty far, so I don't want that to happen. I'm not sure this one, yeah, okay. Should be fine, and then we'll have to Yeah, normally I should be able to make that cycle, but bit of a mishap earlier. On this. Excellent. Alright, so the reason we do the 2 ones on the left first is because there's an 8-ball stage coming up, and the 8-ball stages are pretty tough. You need to shoot a ball and control where it goes. And just because of the physics in this game, this ball is pretty hard to move around. If the ball falls off, you lose a life. If you fall off, you also lose a life. The ball can't break, thankfully, but enemies can still shoot the ball to affect where the ball goes as well. You sort of need to manage that as well. Just you guys, for example, bully us a bit. Very smooth. Oops. No! Oh, don't fall. Heck. Okay. It's actually literally going to be faster for me to just die here and get the elevator again. Because the elevator was... It's a slow descent. Yes. Okay. Alright. Try number 3. It's all good. My preferred weapon in multiplayer, that's a tough one. In Splatoon 1, I played a lot of Luna and a lot of Splatling guns. This part is actually like the easiest part of the level. I don't know why I'm failing this. Yeah, I played a lot of Luna Blaster and a lot of Splatling guns, depending on the mode. In this game, I just went straight Splattershot and Splattershot Pro, though, if I need range. Although I also did have a Slosher phase. We're actually not going to see the Slosher in this run, but we'll see Blasters. Alright, so right here is a skip that we can do. We're supposed to, behind us is like a big cannon. That shoots the ball across this... I could have went for that cycle. That shoots the ball across the seesaw. But there's a way to skip the seesaw if you line it up pretty well. And make sure the ball doesn't fall. Excellent. That was very nice. Alright. So it's actually the first time that I've messed up the elevator that badly. Yeah. That's all good, though. Actually getting the seesaw skip first try is pretty good. Alright, speaking of blasters, CJ, it's all good? CJ, it's all good. Speaking of blasters, though, so we do have a bunch of different weapons. Sometimes it'll just be a basic gun, but sometimes it'll be a different style of weapon. So in this case, it's a blaster, which has really slow shots, but they're very powerful. They can kill enemies in one hit if they're direct hits, but they also do, pretty noticeable damage even if they're indirect hits. Not super good for inking, but the damage output is really good, but they get around that. There are some weapons, so the blaster, for example, that shooting it actually slows you down, so we do try to not shoot it at all unless we need to actually kill something or ink something. Oops, that's a direct. Gives you a very satisfying sound to it. Very nice. Okay, there's a pretty tricky shot there that basically pushes the fan at a perfect distance for you to barely just make it on. Alright, arm is broken. So the armor does regenerate at checkpoints, thankfully, so that's not something I need to worry about in this case, but sometimes it is, it can be pretty scary. How was that stage? Oops. Alright, so we get introduced to another character. This guy also gives you stuff for multiplayer if you get... so after every level you get a little thingy that you see Agent Ada hold up in her hands. They're called mem cakes, or memory cakes. That's sort of like how you regain your memory, or so the story goes. And then this guy will give you items if you collect a set. But we're not going to talk to him because it's slow. Alright, so Maverick Station is pretty cool. We're going to use the Inkjet, which is another special weapon, sort of like the Baller. Inkjet lets you fly, but not indefinitely. You'll always be like a certain distance off the ground, which means that if I fly over a void, there's no ground underneath, so I will fall. Unless I make it on time, obviously. And it also has a sort of like a rocket launcher attached to it. There's a little skip here that you can do. Very nice. There's actually another skip in this level that involves sort of flying from like this side over here and hitting this checkpoint, but it's pretty hard to do. And only saves like 2 seconds. And yeah, this stage is pretty easy. Alright, so we get our second 8-ball stage here, and thankfully our last one for this run. I think there's like 5 8-ball stages total, but obviously in any percent we just do the ones that we need. I find this one to be worse. But technically the first one is harder. Alright, getting past that first guy is actually pretty tough, so... He didn't knock my ball off the side. You can kill him to be safer, but... You would want to use safety strats. Calculated. Okay, these guys I will get rid of, though. Whatever. We'll get rid of one of them. The sponges sort of have weird mechanics. For the balls, they like slow them down, but also you can shoot them to make them bigger, and the enemies can shoot them to make them smaller. Which we will see in later levels, but for now it's not super relevant. Oops. Right, the Splatter Shot Pro has really good range, so we just abuse that there. I don't think I mentioned it, but you can't swim in enemy ink. It slows you down a lot. There you go. That could have been worse. So this stage, compared to the main story game, has a lot of like variance with like what the levels, like what their mechanics are. Obviously, sometimes they're special stages, sometimes it's 8-ball stages. This one is a limited ink stage, so you only have a certain amount of ink to get through the level, which makes it pretty tough. It's still pretty safe, but there is one cycle that I will try to go for. That if I get this jump that I didn't do, it saves like 5 seconds. That's unfortunate. Here's one of the sponges I was talking about. And then this guy eats your ink, so I just need to wait for him to look away. Which, if you get that jump to the left that I did earlier, you can actually get him on a different cycle, which is what saves time. Oops, and now he's to shoot us. Oh my god, I almost didn't make that. All right, not too bad. Yeah, Jet Squelcher's a bit. Jet Squelcher's a bit crazy. We'll see the Jet Squelcher later. Actually, we'll see this Jet Squelcher right now, I think. Yes. Alright, so we have our first break the boxes stage. This one's actually on a cycle. I'm not consistent at getting the good cycle all the time, but there are enough backups to make up for it. Can hit one box over there. No, okay, good, very good. No, that was actually super good. Oh my god. Very nice.
Do we have time for a donation?
Go for it.
So we have a donation by CJitzel1Good for $40.
Oh no.
This is my passionate plea to everyone in the chat. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me ears. Please donate to add items to Quo's 150cc items run, because you have no idea how much of a pleasure it'll be to watch the absolute catastrophe of a category having the items on is. To boot, he just apparently taught you how to blue shell dodge in Discord 5 minutes ago. So please donate for it, he says.
I'll have a minute to talk about Mario Kart in a couple levels. But yeah, items is one of the incentives.
Yes, it is. Try to get those donations in. It matters.
It does. We are saving children. CJ did what, $40? I think for like $35.
$40, yes.
$35 does give something. You probably know more about this than I do.
Yes, it does. $35 can help secure healthcare, safe shelter, and legal services for a survivor of gender-based violence.
There you go. That's what CJ just did just now.
Thank you, CJ. We love you for that.
Alright, so this is an auto-scroller level. I just need to make sure that the ball in the middle doesn't break. There are a few interesting mechanics to it, so I can shoot these guys to activate them early, so I can just go one at a time instead of having to fight two at once. Which makes this easier. And since this is an auto-scroller, I need to wait for the timer to end. There's no fear of losing time here. Oops. Oh, interesting. Sometimes that guy goes straight for the boxes, but sometimes he shoots you instead. So yeah, Mario Kart. It's coming up next. There is an incentive to add items. I normally play without items because items make things significantly less consistent. And for actual attempts, it can be pretty frustrating. So I do know items normally, but I have an idea of the items meta, so that is an incentive if you, for some reason, enjoy items in Mario Kart. But there's also a bid war to choose which character, so if you like your boy's DK or Waluigi, you can show your support that way too. Okay. Oops, I think this is the last guy. No! That was a splashdown. We'll see it a bit later, but I don't think we ever used it in the run. And that was girl power. Yeah, that stage can snowball pretty badly if you don't know like when the enemies are popping out. Like casually, that stage is actually pretty tough. Alright, so this is Matchmaker Station. There are two levels like this where you need to sort of... there's a... what do you call it? A statue on the right, or on the left rather, and then a bunch of boxes on the right. And you need to shoot the boxes so that they both match. This one's pretty easy because it tells you which boxes to break, which is the orange boxes, as opposed to the brown boxes that are that you don't break. Also, if you break any of the brown boxes, you need to restart the level. I'm gonna do my best to not do that. I know, Keto, you had a pretty long blurb about Save the Children. This would be a good time to do it, because the stage is long and requires concentration.
Alrighty. So, how long will this be?
Oh, you have like
Pretty big.
2 minutes.
Oh, alrighty. In that case, 168 million children worldwide are involved in child labor. That's more than all the children in Europe combined, which is not good. Child labor deprives the children the right to normal and physical and mental development and often interferes with children's education. $50 can pay for the attendance of an entire village school in a country like Uganda, including the cost of teacher training and salary, supplies, and curriculum. Educating children gives the next generation the tools to fight poverty and prevent diseases. So, whenever you donate, you are giving to the children directly. You're not giving it to some entity. You are giving to the children because children are precious, and we all know this. In fact, my little sister is really precious and adorable. So please, think of the children.
Think of the children.
Oh yeah, not only that, girl power, child power. Power of the children.
Okay, so boxes take 2 shots here. There was one that I had shot once earlier, so I really had to make sure that I didn't shoot it again, or else we would be restarting the stage, and I really don't want to restart the stage. I did this run at Ika as a bonus, when was that? End of March? And I did have to restart this stage. So, not doing that here, very nice, is a good thing. So there are a couple of boxes there that I accidentally shot once, which would have been quite tragic. Because that stage is not fun. But we're through it, and that's the important bit. Alright, so the next station is a boss fight. This is the only, what do you call it? It's the only, like, boss fight that we don't technically have to do. It's just faster than, doing other stages to get to, our goal here. So it is another inkjet stage, and we will be fighting a, I just don't know what he's called. Octo Shower, I think? Something like that. Oh yeah, the game does a terrible job at explaining that the orange boxes are the ones that you can break. I blew the mind. Actually, Unventure Potato that said, I see now. I think that was in reply to my comment about the orange boxes are the ones that you break, because or else that stage takes like an hour to do. Octo Shower, I was right. Octo Shower Supreme even. So he flies above, he has 3 Octarians on his head that keeps him up. That was actually a good first cycle. We need to shoot the Octarians so that he falls down, and then a tentacle comes out of his back, and then we do that 3 times to win, because this is a Nintendo boss fight, and you need to do something 3 times to win. The second time there are 4 of them, and the third time there are 4 of them with sort of a helmet that gives them more sporadic movement. Nice. If I can hit 2 on the first cycle, that's actually really good. 3 are down. So, while setting up the stream, I got a soft lock on this boss that I've never seen before. So I hope it doesn't happen again. It was on his face. He didn't move, and I couldn't shoot the Octarians. Like, they would... Okay, there you go. They would take damage, like they would become orange, because that's my ink color. But then they wouldn't die. They would just be at full damage and still be above his head and not fall off. But that was obviously not the case. That was actually a really good boss fight. I guess I never really talked about the lore of Splatoon. So Splatoon is a post-apocalyptic shooter, sort of like Gears of War, but it's from Nintendo, so everyone is squids and we shoot ink instead. So the story of it is that during, I think it was like World War VII or World War V, someone shot a nuclear warhead into the South Pole, and that flooded the world. And most people died, but not everyone. The ones that survived went to underground bunkers, and then they eventually died. So that was how humanity got extinct. Oops, I didn't actually split there. And then it took like 10,000 years, I think, for evolution to give us Octolings. But eventually we got Octolings and Inklings. And then DJ Octavio wanted to have more land. I think it was DJ Octavio. It could have been someone else, actually. I need to look into that. Wanted to have more land because the amount of land was limited. Because obviously the world was flooded. At this point, the water levels had started to reduce. There was a bit of land. So there was the Great Turf War, which was before Splatoon 1. By the way, we got our first thing. We need 4 of these. So that was before Splatoon 1, and the Inklings won, and the Octarians were pushed underground to the bunkers that the humans had left behind. And that became Octo Valley, I believe, which is where the story mode of Splatoon 1 takes place, and the story mode of Splatoon 2. And yeah, that's the gist of it, basically. You should be all caught up now. The important things is the world flooded, Inklings and Octolings were in a war, and then Octolings went underground. The metro allegedly was here from like the time the humans were. Oops. Which is why it sort of still looks like a human metro. Alright, by breaking these boxes, all the 2-shot enemies become 1-shot. Oops, there you go. Very nice. One other thing about this game is there's Judd the cat. So Judd was the pet of a scientist, of one of the humans that escaped to the underground bunker. And he didn't want his cat to die with everyone else. Oh yeah, there was a Boohoo for pixel there. So he didn't want his cat to die with everyone else, so he made a what do you call it? He cryogenically froze his cat to be asleep for like 10,000 years, and then hopefully he would wake up when the world had inhabited people. But just in case it hadn't yet, he made it so that that capsule could also clone himself. So if you ever play multiplayer in this game, there's Judd and there's Little Judd. Little Judd is actually a clone of Judd. It's not a separate cat. But thankfully, Judd made his friends. Judd also lives forever. He's, I think, 2,000 years old in this game. So there's that too. Alright, there's a skip here. I've only gotten it in practice, I've never gotten it in a run, and that fact continues to exist today. If you're on a rail and you get your armor broken, you actually can't go back onto the rail, so you basically just fall to your death. That's relevant in a few places, but this is one of them, so I really need to make sure that I don't spin these too fast, that the ones in the back catch up to me. So now I have a chance to try that skip again. Heck. Alright, well. If you ever see me jumping and doing this, this is slightly faster than swimming on the rail. We'll do that sometimes. Are you... I'm mad. I'm actually angry. That shouldn't have happened. Alright. You hate to see it. It's okay. There we go, we made it. Well, that could have gotten worse, but... I guess I never explained it. So when you have two guns, that's a dually weapon. And you can also roll with them, which is what you were seeing me do on the rails. You basically just jump and roll. And it is faster, but you're only limited to 2 rolls. There are some guns that let you do 4, but you're only limited to 2 rolls. So overall, it's slower unless you can like cancel the end of your roll, which you can with a rail. But that's about it, really. So we'll only use rolls when we can roll onto a rail or roll into a data point at the end of a level. So this is our second thing. Excellent. So again, we need 4 to get to the promised land. Yeah, you take a selfie with it. This game is very much inspired by a lot of things, mostly like, oops, back to train is a bit faster here. Mostly by like youth. So like all the clothing styles, the dances that the NPC do, and then, you know, taking selfies and stuff like that. Yeah, it's all inspired by like teenagers and stuff. Mostly in Japan, but also like sort of around the world. Pretty cool. This mode particularly, the DLC, is also inspired a lot by like vaporwave stuff. So if you listen to the music a lot, or a lot of the like aesthetics in the background, not in this level, but in other levels, like the aesthetics in the background and like the loading screens and all that. Yeah, it's a lot of like vaporwave stuff. So this is the Rainmaker. This is actually one of the competitive multiplayer modes. There are 4 competitive multiplayer modes and 1 casual one. And Rainmaker is one of them. You get this like giant, I guess, grenade launcher is the closest thing to it, called the Rainmaker, and you need to land it into the enemy base. This one's really easy because we can basically just waltz to the end without getting shot if you know how to avoid the Octolings. And that's that. It's actually my favorite mode in competitive, and the one that I've worked the most hours into, but they're all pretty good. So we have our first set of mem cakes, which we can give to Isopodre, I was wrong. We're not going to talk to him though, because again, he gives us multiplayer items, and I'm not interested in multiplayer items right now. So here we get another stage with dualies. So again, we can roll with them, and you'll see me using that. And this one's actually pretty interesting because it does have a couple of, oops, that's the rails. It does have a couple of different skips and whatnot. So by rolling, you also fall faster. So you'll see me roll off of the end of rails when they come to an end. Alright, so there's a small skip here that I can do. Oh, I messed it up. There you go. It skips a bit of the loop around over there. Alright, these guys are absolutely not a threat. Oops, I say that and then get shot. Okay, these guys are not a threat. I think I stayed on the middle rail too long. You normally get shot on this one. Oh, actually. But you normally don't get shot on the first one. And you can tank a shot, as I mentioned before, it just breaks your armor. But you actually don't slow down with broken armor if you're on a rail, so here we don't really care. Bombs also exploded out of points instantly, which is why you usually see me throw a bomb at the end there. Splat bombs, not burst bombs. The burst bombs are a bit weaker. Alright, so this is Bustalicious. We need to break 20 boxes without breaking the fail balloons. This one can be done really fast as long as I get the cycles right. But it also requires a bit of finesse because, as Captain Cuttlefish will mention, the Jet Sculpture's spread is something to consider here. And you don't want to break the fail balloons. I missed it. Okay. Let's get a backup box then. Ugh. Missed 2. Excellent. The suicide shot is really cool there. You're not supposed to do it, because it's pretty risky, but gotta live on the edge.
Do you have time for a donation?
Go for it.
Alrighty then. We have Itka for $10 for the kids, but us to make CG happy and Quo slightly bothered during his Mario Kart run, but mostly for the children. You can already tell what that donation is for.
I have an idea. There's also a bid war for Mario Kart, by the way. Please donate towards that.
Oh yes, there's not one, there's actually 2.
2 bid wars?
Yes.
Did I add a second bid war?
At least, yeah. There's one for the racer choice, which is to choose a character.
Oh, yeah, and then one for... Okay.
Yeah, and there's also one for allowing the use of items.
Yes, okay.
Which is great, because you can use items to basically mess up Quo's plans. We're halfway there, by the way. We're at 50 out of $100.
Alright, so there's a bid war and an incentive. Okay. That is correct. But yeah, so normally in Mario Kart you'll be in first place most of the time, and in first place you don't get mushrooms, you don't get stars, you don't get any good items. So it's really just the CPUs that are getting like red shells and blue shells and like thunders and just... I wrote no items for a reason. Yeah, this stage is really cool. It's pretty simple. It speaks for itself. But it's also one of my favorite stages. It's very movement-based. The bananas do give you calcium, you're not wrong. Alright, so here's our third thing. If you haven't caught on yet, they're going to build something. But for those who haven't seen the game, I'm not going to spoil it. But also, by now you should reasonably know what it's trying to build. Alright, also here we get to decide what we want Agent 3 to look like. Which we're just going to go with the default, so it's a girl with blue eyes. Because it's faster to just mash A instead of picking. No, Rizu's busy. Rizu's checkbook is somewhere else. He misplaced it. Alright, so this is our last box breaking stage. This one looks like an auto-scroller, but there actually are some ways to speed it up. Not more than by a few seconds, but those seconds can't matter. Your time is significantly better than mine. But by just breaking the boxes, you can get the other rails to activate sooner, and then the earlier you jump on them, the faster, obviously, you go. And we'll skip here. So if you hit any of the washers, which are the green spinny things, your armor breaks. Nice. And again, if your armor breaks, you fall to your death. And I do not enjoy falling to my death. And also, obviously, if you fall to your death, you fall to your death. Which, as aforementioned, I do not enjoy. So I'm trying to avoid both of those things. So the first half is pretty easy. The second half is when things start getting difficult because they're now moving and I'm trying to not die. There we go. Depending on what cycle these guys are on, you can actually just slide right through them on the rail. I didn't want to risk it there. I think it was a bit too close for my liking. There you go. Test passed. So I don't think it's ever explicitly stated in the game, but I think it was in one of the dev interviews they explained it more. But you're not the first test subject to actually get all 4 things. It's just the telephone replaces them after every time. So this game actually makes sense instead of you're literally the first person to ever do a thing. Because again, this subway has been around for a very long time. And so has the telephone. We will get why the telephone has been around for a while later, but for now, we're in Can't Touch This. Which, if you have a very keen eye, you might have... There's like a flavor text for each station, and this one references MC Hammer. Which the stage name also references MC Hammer. If you get touched, if you either walk in enemy ink or get shot by an enemy, you die in this stage, so I'm going to be pretty conservative with how I go about it. Times. Yeah, doing the stage deathless is very nice. There is one part that I normally get stuck on. For the most part, it's pretty cool. There are actually 2 strats for this level. The other one, so we're using Umbrella, which has a big shield, which is useful exactly once, which is here. Technically twice if you want to do the beginner strats. But it just blows up those guys. The other strat is to use a Squiffer, which is a sort of a shorter ranged sniper. And that Squiffer has a curling bomb as the bomb. This guy just needs to avoid. Very nice. So again, you can use Umbrella there. But yeah, the Squiffer and the curling bomb is faster. It's just incredibly difficult. It's like, if you're not in top 3, you're not going for that strat sort of thing. So I'm sticking to the Umbrella strat. Alright, so this guy can mess you up pretty badly. Exhibit A. It's also like super far from the checkpoint, which is unfortunate. But since he has a shield, you can't really, unless you like shoot it a bunch of times, you can't break it. So we just need to like swim around him and sort of, the more you understand like how often he shoots, the easier you can get around him. So that was pretty good. It's not that hard with practice, but definitely not super consistent. I guess you use the Brawl twice. Here you don't need to though, I just use it because it's a bit safer. Because this guy's range is longer than yours. Alright, 1 death is acceptable. Alright, so this is an auto-scroller stage. It's a minute auto-scroller, and you just need to make sure that your orb survives. Sort of like Girl Power, I guess. But this time you use, I forget what they're called. It's basically a giant cannon that's used in Salmon Run. We also used it once in one of the earlier stages. But yeah, I just need to break the missiles that come close to me, and they're always on the same cycle, so it's pretty easy. But yeah, Keto, if you have any more donations or anything you want to talk about, now's a pretty good time. Or I can just eat time up. Once you know the cycles here, they're not too tough. The bigger ones take 2 shots unless you hit the tentacle on the back. That missed there. In which case it's 1 shot.
Alright, I have the donation ready for you.
Go for it.
As,
I think your microphone died there. Or you got muted somehow. Alright, we'll get Keto back shortly.
So Timrod donated $25, and he wants... As a Jet Squelcher main, all Splattershot mains must suffer.
Oh,
Turn
no.
on those...
Oh no. I only use the Splattershot Pro when I need to, okay? So what are we at, $75 now for items out of 100? I think so, if my math is right. Alright, so we got our last thing. Which, now we can go to the Promised Land, which is Inkopolis. Or so he claims. We just need to say yes 3 times. Alright, now we have a cutscene. So a lot of the things in this game, they're like based off of other items. So in the main story, for example, a lot of the to enter levels, it's like based on a steam pot or something. So this is a blender. This blender doesn't double as anything else. It's literally just a blender. But because we believe the telephone, we go into the blender. This is also where we realize that the telephone is actually bad. He's the final boss of the game, by the way. Because he sort of like tries to blend you, and that's not very fun. So basically the story of this game is the telephone gets test subjects, and the ones that are good actually get the 4 things. And if they do get the 4 things, they get blended, and then the phone uses that DNA to like produce better, better quality Octolings that he can use to eventually take over Inkopolis. Thankfully, Agent 3 jumps in right in time to save us. And then gets a concussion. So if you remember the scientist that I talked about that cryogenically froze his cat so that his cat didn't die, that's the same scientist that made this telephone. He just intended this telephone to be good, but because the telephone was like isolated for 10,000 years or something, it got like basically got sentient, and then it started to want to destroy everything because it doesn't think that Inklings and Octolings are good beings, I guess. Like, they're not a good replacement for humans, according to it. It's pretty messed up, but that's why we're here. Alright, so now basically we need to escape. So Agent 3's her iPhone had basically a map mapped out all the way to the surface. And because she came in just in time, Marina was able to tap into it and get us the map for it. So now we just need to go through 7 phases. This is the sneaky phase, the Splinter Cell phase if you want. So I don't have a gun right now, which means that if enemies shoot me, I cannot shoot back. So I'm going to have to not get detected by any enemies, which shouldn't be a problem. I'm clearly a Maskrat stealth, so none of them are ever going to see me. I'm invisible to the human eye. Oh yeah, this is 100% Metal Gear. Or not Metal Gear, Splinter Cell. No, Metal Gear also has sneaky sections, you're right. But yeah, because I'm so good at not getting caught, none of them can actually see me. So there's a little skip here I can do. And just land in enemy ink, and then be on my way and skip a cycle. Without being detected a single time. Oh, this is actually bad. My armor shouldn't be broken here. No! Alright, so I lied to you guys. I can be detected. I am not as sneaky as originally perceived. Okay. I need to wait for the cycle of the, where the arrow is. I need to wait for that cycle anyway, so waiting for this guy down here isn't actually that bad. I guess I lose like 2 seconds, but... That's phase 1. Oh, never mind, that's not phase 1. Oh. So that's phase 1. So if you look at the diagram here, it's supposed to represent a human body. I don't know enough about the human body to tell you what the coccyx or the villi is, but the next stage is the belly, and then intestinal, and then other things. Yeah, onion rings are another aesthetic choice in this game. So I actually need to look at this guy with the camera for him to notice me. If I look at the floor like I normally do, he actually doesn't see me. The reason I look at the floor, by the way, is this game does use motion controls, and just the way I hold the controller is more downwards. It's not for like any lag reduction or anything. You can use stick if you don't like motion controls, but I like motion controls. Also, we finally get some of Pearl and Marina's music. It gets louder as the stages go on, but if you can't hear it in the background, it is a pretty bopping tune. This stage, or this phase rather, is also where we get our gun and bomb. We just need our buddy over here to help us break these boxes. Thank you. Oh, what? I've never touched that light before. Alright, so I'm doing this side now to get the Octo shot. You can actually skip it, and I'll show how to do it. Oops, nice. I'll show how to do it, and I'll also show why I don't do it. Which, that'll make more sense when I actually get there. But for now, it's just a bit more movement. Alright, I think because my cycle is off, yeah, this thing is like completely painted now. Okay. Alright, so basically you can get up this wall with without a gun. I'm not going to do it. But to do Octo Shot Skip, basically you need to throw a bomb here, and then wait. Oops, I actually missed it. And then wait, and then hope that one of the spread shots of the bomb hits this switch. And it's completely random, and if you get it first try, it saves like 30 seconds or something like that. It's like, it's a world record strat. It's very inconsistent. I think it saves more than 30 seconds, but yeah, it's not fun. It really does. Yeah, I have like a 116 in this game, which is like 9 minutes behind the record or something. I should be breaking the 115 barrier soon, but even then I'm not integrating that into runs. So this is actually where the sanitized octarians get produced. There, you can sort of see them like encased in glass blocks. That's where all the the blender sludge goes to and makes the Octarians as good as they are, which unfortunately is not very good right now. Why we can get through this game pretty easily. This phase also has a pretty tough cycle to make, so I'm going to try to make it. I've been getting it significantly more consistently than I used to. Oops. But it's still hard to make. Also hear the telephone and Captain Cullfish start speaking, so if you guys like the story of Splatoon, you guys can pay attention to that. It looks like we're good for the cycle. Very nice. Alright, so the important bit of getting that cycle isn't just getting here earlier, it's also in the cycle over here. So if you actually don't make it, you need to take an intentional death, which resets the cycles. But since we did get the good cycle, I can just drop down here, and the box that I need is right there. And it's very nice. Oops, okay. That was a bit slow, but fine. And that guy cooperated. Excellent. Alright, this is my favorite phase. Oops, I didn't spoke there, whatever. Oops. Peace. So this part has a security system. The laser beams will explode you in one shot. I could have made that. I wimped out. It's just pretty far from a checkpoint, so I don't want to. Oops, can I not hit the switch? Alright, so there's a jump here coming up. It can be tough, and it's sort of scary. You need to do it twice. Very nice. I thought I messed it up the second time, actually. Okay. That was a bit scuffed, but... we're measly scraps of seafood. Very nice. Alright, so the second half of the escape is about getting a zapfish. So zapfishes produce electricity. If you play the main story, there's a lot of zapfish there, which is how the Octolings sort of make all their weapons and all that. They use zapfish. And we're going to use an inkjet here. It's actually a really cool face. I like it a lot. Oops, nice. Alright, there's 8 data points to collect, and our route is set, and it sort of abuses the fact that the inkjet can pretty much do whatever it wants. So we're going to be skipping a few things. Although I don't think it's really skipping if they really intended the stage to be this open. By mashing B there, you can actually not fall down, which is a very nice time save. Oops. Okay. Alright. Whoops, that's fine. So your armor gets restored whenever you get a checkpoint. I think I mentioned that earlier. And you get a checkpoint every time you hit a data point, so there's nothing really to be super scared about if your ink breaks here, or if your armor breaks rather. Also, I went to the right there, or the left, depending on what direction I was looking. And I sort of inked a bit of that wall with the inkjet. It's actually just saved me a shot. So instead of shooting this wall 3 times, I can just shoot it once. I'm actually just gonna take the death there because I forgot to press the B button, and I would respawn. I think I respawn at the data point. Oh no, okay. Where am I? That's fine. I know where I am. Well, I don't get to show you the cool thing, but I do need to get this one first. Because I can't get this one from the other one. Was it bad and competitive now? I know for a while it was like very meta. Yeah, this game does get updated a lot, so the competitive scene does change a bit with like which specials are actually good and which aren't. Baller was like really good for a while. It was actually really bad first, but then really good. Stingray was like... we actually don't see a Stingray in Octo Expansion. But Stingray was like really bad, and then they buffed it a lot, and then it was really good, and then they nerfed it, and now it's acceptable. In this game, they tried to not make it as special focused as Splatoon 1 was, because Splatoon 1 had 2 specials that acted as panic buttons, which was pretty unfair. And also burst bombs were broken. Oh, was it that early? Right, yes. At launch, Inkjet was really good. I didn't use it because I can't aim, which is why I main Blaster. Alright, so this stage is pretty nasty. To do it fast, I will need to take damage, but my damage does get restored every time I hit a checkpoint, which is still pretty generous. Also, you see me sort of going in the ink every time. That's just so I basically restore the amount of ink that I spew out, so I never actually lose any ink, because we will be shooting this a lot. I just need to, yeah, so we're going to be fine here. Oops.
I actually have a little brief announcement to make.
Oh no, I know what it is. Please tell me.
Good.
It's not. No.
So, Anonymous says, $25, it's items time!
No. Why?
Yes. Because yes.
Because yes. Alright, well, we're gonna get items in Mario Kart. I think I'm the only one that's disappointed by that. But you know who's not disappointed? The children that we're saving.
Well said.
So we can actually tank a hit from that laser, and as long as nothing else touches us, we're pretty good. And that was actually a deathless phase. That's really good. Yeah, there are fans to block the incoming ink missile things. Yeah, doing the stage deathless is actually pretty tough just because of there are a lot of things to consider. But that was very nice. Oops, I don't think I inked enough. I think I'm standing in ink. Not just a bit. We're fine. Very nice. Damn, that was actually gold. I'm running splits beside, but not super relevant. Oh, timing it is fine as long as the guys that shoot bombs at you don't shoot bombs at you. Yeah, the bomb guys will throw bombs at you and not at the orb. So as long as you're not close to the orb, it won't take too much damage. Which is good because it does like half of its damage if the bomb is like right beside. Yeah, there's a lot of like detail done in this game. Like those green things are the sanitization that the telephone uses to sanitize the Octarian to make the mind control stuff. There's a lot of like small details in this game that make it really cool, I find. There's also a cutscene skip here. So there are going to be, or we're supposed to like climb up like all the way to the elevator till for a while. But if we time it so that the third text box clears by the time we die, we can skip a lot of it. Okay. And even if we get it like second or third try, it still saves time just because the girls talk forever. Alright, this is unfortunate. Last try. There you go. That still saves time. Alright, so we're gonna need to fight Agent 3 now. So Agent 3 got controlled by the telephone. Which gives her a pretty cool aesthetic, but unfortunately it also takes over her mind. This fight isn't too bad. There's a fight that if you beat all the levels, it's like this fight, but on extreme drugs. Which I won't be doing, because we don't need to do it for any percent. But yeah, this fight's relatively easy as long as you don't get bodied by splashdowns. Actually, I lied, we will see a Stingray in this fight. Oops. Please, thanks. This is the Stingray. If anyone's curious, you'll only see it for a second, though. Heck. Heck. Oh, I lost all my ink. Okay. Okay, there you go. Alright, so you can do this in 2 splashdowns. If I can aim. Oh, I can't aim. Alright, and the third one I'll just take a hit and break my armor. Just because it's a bit easier to aim. How close are we to items? We got the items goal, unfortunately. But yeah, there's still a character incentive, by the way. If you guys like characters. Yeah, just Roy Decan Waluigi. I'll explain why when we get to Mario Kart. I know how to use Roy. Alright, so we get an unskippable cutscene, and then we get an auto-scroller. So we are going to be done in 8 minutes and 15 seconds. Stingray's a fire extinguisher. It is. Yeah, all the weapons, the like non-conventional, actually even the conventional ones, they're all like based on things. So isn't the big splatling gun, the hydro splatling, is also based on a fire extinguisher, I think. And then obviously like your basic guns and all that, they're based on like water guns. A lot of them are really cool. There's the aerospray that's based on like an aerosol basically can for paint. Anyways, we're at the surface. We made it out of the metro thanks to Agent 3's map and... well, Agent 3's map pretty much. But then the telephone comes back for revenge. So, I guess I'll let the cutscene play out a bit before I actually explain what's going on. I have a tendency to do that. Was it a trash can? Okay, I thought it was a... okay. Yeah, the aerospray is good for Turf War, but that's about it. The aerospray is good for the sub-weapons that it does. Right, so this is the only human thing that we see in the game, which is a statue. And the phone is back. Unfortunately, it disabled its contemporary speech mode, which means that it talks like a bad guy now instead of like a hip youngster. But yeah, the story was that the professor that I mentioned earlier that made Judd also made the telephone, and his intent was to pass on the knowledge that humans had to the next smart life form. But then the telephone explains it that he doesn't like Inklings or Octolings because they're more worried about fashion and turf war than they are other things. So the telephone just like... yeah, he made a cannon out of a statue. The statue is like sort of like the Statue of Liberty, but not. So it is a pretty sick looking cannon, not gonna lie. One thing I didn't talk about in this game, if you buy too much, the game gives you a free skip, which is faster in most cases, but this category doesn't allow for death abuse. There's a separate death abuse category that you basically just jump off until you get the skip, and that's the entire run. Not very fun, not a lot of people do it. I think this statue is based more on a Greek god of sorts than the actual Statue of Liberty. But yeah, the idea is like the Statue of Liberty that was just underwater because the world flooded. I don't speedrun hero mode. I actually only do Octo Expansion. I was thinking of sort of dabbling in it. Just one really bad thing about this game is whenever you want to reset, you need to go in the Switch settings and delete the data off the profile, which means you need to like watch the intro every time, and it takes like 4 minutes to reset. So I'm not like super big on picking up another category in this game. Yeah, she had like the statue of MS Paint, and then Pearl is like super high def. I don't think I mentioned it, but that's Pearl and Marina. They were talking to you. This is also the best line in the game. You the hype man. What's up, Jai Motion? How was my morning? Define morning, because I only went to bed at 3 AM. It was actually pretty unfortunate because I coded a bot for NASA that would like spit out the runner's Twitch based on all the backend stuff that NASA has going on. But then I installed a bunch of stuff on my computer and had to reinstall Windows. I saved the exe, but since it used a custom library that isn't like based to Windows, the thing doesn't work. So I need to recode it basically. Now I know that how to do it. Like I just need C# and I need to parse the HTML. I can do it in like 2 hours, so that shouldn't be a problem. It's just annoying that I have to redo it. I also got a special gift from Saskatoon. CJ got me a birthday gift that took like forever to get here. Anyways, this is the statue fight. Marina has these hyper bombs, and I need to blow them up because the statue absorbs sunlight to power the cannon. But the statue's covered with ink, it can't power sunlight. It's also an auto-scroller, so I do need to wait for the 3 minutes to be up. You'll see me waiting around a lot. Oops. But yeah, this fight's like impossible to mess up unless you decide you want to jump in the water at the end. Ah, please. There you go. I wanted to jump off here anyways. Yeah, they do bring the killer whale back. Technically, it's called the Princess Cannon, but it's a killer whale. They also brought it back for, I think it was the final Splatfest map. That was a pretty cool mechanic, but it was also extremely, extremely unbalanced. I actually forgot that last bomb once in a run. It wasn't a PB run or anything, but it would have been really unfortunate if I did. Yeah, so, well, I don't play it as much, but I have like 300 hours in this game in competitive, which isn't a lot compared to like the actual pros, but I did hit X rank in all 4 modes. Not on this profile, obviously, because, as I mentioned, you need to delete the data each time, but on my main one. Alright, I actually missed one. So. And there you go. And time is going to end when the timer hits 0, as long as I don't jump in the water, which I have done before. And time. There you go. I didn't stop my time, whatever. I was like a 118. Which is completely acceptable. When I submitted this, my PB was actually like a 119, so that's good. One also bonus of running the DLC is that, so on Switch games, cartridges run slower than internal memory. Since this is the DLC though, it's always on internal, so you don't lose time by having cartridge, which is cool. But yeah, this last cutscene is pretty cool. So he tries to blow up Inkopolis, because he does not like Inkling's Roctolings. And then Pearl saves the day with her killer whale, or Princess Cannon. Also, if you look closely, we win, obviously. Sorry for spoiling it. If you look at his eye, there's a bunch of like 8-balls and other stuff from the Octo Expansion that pops out of it. Yeah, also 888.8%. Because they have a thing for number 8 in this game. Our reunion beckons. So that is the end of the telephone. And with it, Octo Expansion. We saved Inkopolis.
GG, my man.
GG.
I've actually never seen the Octo Expansion, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Octo Expansion is really good. It's definitely worth the money if you have Splatoon.
I probably will get it.
Yeah? Do you have Splatoon? Or Splatoon 2, rather?
We do a Splatoon 2 over here.
I would
think that's
definitely
expansion.
recommend it.
Awesome.
Even like playing casually. Like if you played the story mode, this mode is, in my opinion, significantly more fun. And there's also a secret final boss, which is like extremely difficult. Like it tests a lot of skills that you have acquired throughout your hours of Splatoon.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It is. I thought about submitting it as like an incentive that I would do it after the run, or I would like attempt for like 10 minutes or something. But I couldn't consistently beat it in 10 minutes. And the fight itself is like a minute long if you beat it. But even though I have the hours in this game, it is a very difficult fight. It's really cool though.
Nice. Do you have any final thoughts on the game? What people should...
The Splatoon Discord's always open, and they're really welcoming to new players. If you guys want to pick this up, I would recommend it. And as I mentioned, you don't need the internal version, or you don't need the downloaded version to play the fastest version of Octo Expansion, since it is DLC and it's downloaded. For hero mode, it does make a bit of a difference, but again, it's all in good fun. So I would check out this game if you guys want. I'll say the piece on me later because I'm actually coming right back from Mario Kart.
Hello. Howdy how. Peter Fox here. Up next, we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, run also by the lovely and beautiful Quo. We have met the incentive donation for allowing items, which is great. Not only that, we also have another donation incentive regarding Racer Choice, and we do have a couple donations. First of all, we have a donation that... Here's a calcium lemon reference. $5 is $5. And he donates, and it's by the good old CJ, and he donates to Roy Koopa. We have another donation. It's really long, it's from Anonymous, and it's the entirety of the DK rap. I'm pretty sure you may have seen it across the screen. I'm not sure if it's still going or not right now, but it was the entirety of the DK rap, which is kind of hilarious. And you can probably tell which character they bid for. And then lastly, we have one final donation from CJ again, which says, I see that someone tried to outbid me, but I've never lost a bid war in my life. And thus, he donated once again to get Roy. CJ donated $5, Anonymous donated $10, and then he donated $11. So there's a bit of a war going on. With that in mind, how's everyone going today? I also like to remind that your donations go towards Save the Children and their mission in giving children a healthy start in life, the opportunity to learn and protection from harm. So thank you very much for that. Thank you. We love you for giving to the children because the children are precious and we must save them. Also, I've noticed that we had a couple donations for around $10. And those $10 can provide high-nutrient peanut paste, which is nice, very nutritious food to a malnourished child for 10 whole days. That's just $1 a day is all it takes to help a child be more successful in their nutrition. I also like to mention that we have other donation incentives as well. Not just the character bid war, which will close fairly soon because that run is coming up momentarily.
It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.
So in a moment, we're about to switch to one of our favorite little intermission games called Marbles. Welcome to Marbles, everyone. If you want to join in the game, all you have to do is type in the chat !play. We've got 12 racers on queue. Let's go. So we have everyone's neck and neck mostly. Oh, apparently I'm ahead. That's awkward. We have Friendship Cannon and CJ coming in a close second, and also Rod. It's a nice, interesting slide. Friendship Cannon trying to close in on the gap and almost overtakes. Oh no, he's gone backwards. That's unfortunate. But Quo's coming in for the steal. Quo has overtaken, is now in the lead. We have Lurk and CJ going neck and neck over on the curve, coming around the bend as well. They gotta catch up, but can they do it? We have Friendship Cannon and CJ because CJ managed to catch up. Currently in the lead, we seem to have Quo trying to lead the way. Quo and Fire Turtle really taking off there. Oh, here comes the Dread Spikes. Oh, Quo stuck in the spikes, leaving Fire Turtle to take the lead. That reminds me of the last time that the spikes have actually ruined the world-class marble racing champion, as CJ goes backwards to the track, an unfortunate setback. Fire Turtle still holding the lead. All the others take the boost panels at the right. Timrod skipping the spikes entirely, and I'm just there chilling next to the spikes, unfortunately. Lurk-chan also coming to the spikes. Is able to literally bunny hop the spikes. Fire Turtle with an insurmountable lead, still holding strong. But here he comes to the Snowflake Grinder. Fire Turtle trying to get past the stalagmites, getting near the end, and Fire Turtle is the winner! Coming up in second, we have Friendship Cannon, also going past the stalagmites, and a close race for third by me and Quo. And it is a photo finish. Quo barely makes it out into fourth. We have Lurk in fifth, Tim in sixth, CJ coming around the bend for seventh place. We might have a new undisputed champion. Lurk Chan giving the sub to Fire Turtle for their honest victory. GG. Here comes Two Worlds and Rod, trailing at the end to finish us off. Two Worlds a speedy finish, Rod also a speedy finish. And the winner is Fire Turtle. A whole 12 seconds ahead of second. What a marvelous finish. So after that, we're going to switch over to a little message from Save the Children.
The cycle of poverty that we see a lot of families staying in is a very toxic kind of stress. You know, it's living life on this edge of the cliff and you never know what's going to push them off.
What's the hardest thing about being a kid?
Growing up.
Imagine trying to go to school and focus on learning when your stomach's growling, not knowing if they're going to get to eat dinner at home.
We try to make a safe haven with our programs and give them a chance to be kids and enjoy learning.
When you read a book, it takes you somewhere. It's an adventure. Reading's hard for me, but now it's a blast.
The confidence that our programs build in children is something that you cannot put a price on.
They helped me get an education, which I think is pretty cool.